Hey you guys, so this person pictured here is Naomi Osaka, and today's video will be about how the media is trying to erase her blackness. Now, before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know I created a Patreon. What inspired me to do so is because the flagging on YouTube is like trash. I'm not going to delete my channel ever. So the swirlers, yes, like go take a dump on yourself because I'm never leaving. Like you're not going to run me off this platform. But what they like to do is when I make videos exposing people who are like undercover white supremacists, what they like to do is like flag my videos based on false things. Now, flag me because I'm lying on somebody. Flag me because I'm threatening somebody. But don't flag me telling YouTube that I showed nudity in a video or made sexually charged comments, which is 100% a lie. So they did that for that video that you guys saw me exposing that undercover white supremacists who subscribe to a lot of white supremacists on YouTube. And after I made that video, YouTube gave me a strike because they flagged it. And I'm going to appeal it. And I always successfully appeal my strikes because I don't use abusive language. I don't threaten people, etc. in my videos. So anyways, I will be making a Patreon, and I will probably be charging, I don't know, like $1.99 a month or so, something around that, or $2.99. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but anybody that decides to follow me on Patreon, I'll leave a link, and I thank you guys so much for supporting me. So this person in front of you is Naomi Osaka. She's biracial. She's half black. Her father's Haitian and her mother is Japanese. So one thing that I noticed is that in tennis, they don't like to give black people or even half black people the satisfaction that you are excelling in this sport based on your own merit, and your blackness was not an obstacle for you to not excel in this sport, even though we made so many different arduous roads for you guys to not be able to make it to the big stages. And why I say that is because when you think about pre-open era, and the open era is like the contemporary times where they allow any player, whether you're an amateur or a professional, to be able to participate in tournaments. Prior to that, they only allowed professionals to participate in tournaments, and people try to give, credit to that to Billie Jean King, but whatever. So because of them banning amateur players and things like that, well, during those times, it was still like the civil rights era and things like that going on. They weren't allowing black players to just readily participate in tournaments. So the reason why you see so many white players with grand slams and things of that sort is because they were excluding the talented black players from being able to play. And when they did let them play, they would make them have to play 7, 8, 9, 10 different people before they actually were able to participate in like the grand slams. So when you make a system set up that way, of course, the athletes who are in the bigger stages, you're going to breeze through them, because the real athletes, you're not allowing them to participate in the tournament. So that's why you see people like Margaret Court with like 24 grand slams, because the talented black players weren't allowed to play. Or you see like Chris Everett, 18 grand slams. There were plenty of black players who had the skills, who had the talent, but they made it so difficult for them to be able to get to the big stages based on their race. But nobody ever likes to talk about that. So the reason why I'm saying that is because you have players like Venus and Serena, and their dad made it easier for not only black players to be able to participate and have a better chance of getting past like qualifiers, which is like the pre rounds you have to play if you're a lower ranked player to be able to get into Grand Slams. They made it easier for them to be able to secure like sponsorships so that they had the funds to be able to get to these tournaments and things like that. So because of Venus and Serena, we've been seeing like a breakthrough of black players and half black players like coming through the tournaments. You have like Francois Abanda, she's from like Canada. You have Madison Keys, who's half black. You have Sloane Stevens. You have Sasha, what is her name? Crap, her name is like Sasha Vickery, I think that's her name. It's actually crazy because I actually stayed at her house before. That's like a whole nother story. When I was playing tennis, like a lot of the times the players had to like spend a night at people's houses and you would pay them a certain amount, but I actually stayed at her house, so hey Sasha. But yeah, like it just paved the way for people like Naomi Osaka to be able to have a chance, right? So because of that, and because this tennis world understands how much Venus and Serena were such an integral part of half black players being able to even make it to these slams and actually making it into the finals, they don't want to give them that satisfaction of saying, dang it, Venus and Serena's success, their legacy is why we are basically starting to see more all black or more black and half black people being in the finals. Because last year, Sloane Stephens actually made it to the finals and she won it. I don't like Sloane Stephens' style of play. I am the type that likes aggressive baseliners. Sloane is like a counterpuncher, and just some things that Sloane has done. Speaking of mixed company, I'll explain in another video why I don't rock with her because of that. But we're talking about Naomi. So tonight on ESPN, when they were talking about Naomi, they showed her mother. And another fun fact, her physical trainer actually trained me when I was entered into a professional tournament when I was like 16, and he was a trainer for some time, and I always told him, when I win a tournament, I'm gonna buy you a white Porsche, like white rims, so if he sees this video, he's gonna know exactly who I am. But they showed her mother a lot. And they constantly brought up the fact that she's Japanese. They kept saying she's a Japanese player. This is great for Japanese tennis, Japanese. And then they had the nerve to say, she's Japanese and American. And this is great for Japanese and American. It was like they were going out of their way to sliver out of saying she's also half black. She's also half Haitian. They wouldn't do that. And it's okay to identify her as biracial. I'm not saying she should be identified as a black person. What I am saying is that if you are going to acknowledge her Japanese side, and remember when Issa Rae spoke about this in her book where she said there are black people, they're like the blacks of Asians, which are like Filipinos and the darker skinned Asians, right? Like Polynesians and Pacific Islanders, people like that, right? They're like the black people of Asians. But when you think about like the white people of Asians, like Koreans, Japanese, etc., that is instantly when I thought about when they kept bringing up the fact that she's Japanese. I understand that Naomi represents the country of Japan, right? I understand that wholeheartedly, but what we also should not ignore is that she also represents her half Haitian side. And they were talking about her mother and how her mother basically had to kind of hide her relationship with her father, which is pictured here. This is her mother on the left side here, Tamaki. And this is her dad on the right side. His name is Leonard Francois. And she basically said her Japanese family did not approve of their relationship because interracial relationships in Japan are looked down upon. So they basically left Japan in the Osaka area, like fun fact, because that's actually Naomi's last name. And she actually even took her mother's last name. She didn't even get her father's last name, which that might be some sort of tradition in Japan to give the child the mother's last name. I'm not sure. Y'all could tell me because y'all know I don't like to do my research according to y'all, right? But they left Japan when Naomi was 3 years old. They moved to New York, and then Naomi eventually moved to Florida because when you want to become a solid player for your child, the best place to move to is Florida. It's humid heat. It trains your body to be able to endure that sort of weather when you're playing. And they have a lot of coaches like out there that are training players to be like professionals. So they were talking about that, and they also discussed how Naomi's dad on the right side again, he used the blueprint that Richard Williams did for Venus and Serena. And to me, I feel like if it wasn't for Richard Williams, Venus and Serena would not have the legacy that they have today. Because I'm telling you, in this sport of tennis, these white people will wear down your confidence. You could be a solid player and they will instill in you that you're not going to make it past like Division I, which is like college. You're pretty much going to be a club player. You'll never win a slam. And they have to do that because they don't want to open up this sport to anybody that is really non-white. They just want to keep it an all-white sport. That's why it's like the highest cost sport to play. Like when you think about basketball and stuff like that, it's very cheap because all you have to pay for is like sneakers and a jersey. But when you think of tennis, you have to pay for rackets, you got to pay for strings, you got to pay for grips, you got to pay for lessons, you got to pay for training, you got to pay for sports drinks, you got to pay for your clothes, you have to pay for all these different things, traveling. So they don't like men like Richard Williams, who instills that confidence and that high self-esteem in his girls. And I don't know if you guys ever saw that interview where Richard had to check that white reporter because Venus was like, I know I could beat this girl. She kept repeating it like, I know I could beat her. He's like, well, how do you know? Why do you speak so confidently? And Richard had to check him like, how many times does she have to tell you she believes in herself? Like, they don't want you to believe in yourself. So it was interesting to me when they mentioned that Naomi's father, who I have to repeat is Haitian, he's black, he copied Richard's blueprint to be able to develop his girls because he also has another daughter. and aside from Naomi, and he did not allow his daughter to play junior tennis. Like Richard didn't allow Venus and Serena to play junior tennis because he thought it would weaken their game. And that's also what Leonard did for Naomi, and it was beneficial for her. So when I hear that, pretty much the reason why Naomi has her success is because of her black father. But now they want to attach all her success, all of her making it past the quarters, the semis, making it to the finals, her reaching the finals and winning Indian Wells. They're attributing all of that success to the Japanese and not her black father. It just shows you the agenda that they're trying to promote, to erase blackness when it is necessary. But all of a sudden, I guarantee you, if she starts falling out the rounds, which God forbid, I want her to be successful, but if she starts falling out the rounds, then they'll start mentioning how she's half Haitian and half black. Or all of a sudden, if she becomes embroiled in some sort of scandal, they're going to mention the fact that she's Haitian. They won't mention the Japanese thing anymore. And they've done this in the past to her where she actually had to check them because they said to her in an interview, and I don't want to play it because I don't want them to flag my channel. I'll leave the link to the video, but I'll read the transcription of what she said. So the reporter asked her, he said, "You moved to New York when you were 2 years old and lived in the United States for a long time, but you're very proudly Japanese, obviously. What will this victory mean for the people back home, for both sets of fans who will be watching for you?" And as you can see, oh, she with the little black kids. Oh, that's so cute. And then she said, "Actually, I live in Florida now. But I mean, of course, I'm very honored to be playing for Japan. But my dad's side is Haitian, so represent." And when she said that part, I fell to freak out because I remember watching that match. And the way she said represent and used like a peace sign, it was adorable. And she said, "But yeah, I forgot the rest of your question. Sorry." When you watch the video, she talks exactly like that. It's hilarious. And I just love her shyness. Like I like her because what this did here was it put this reporter in his place to say, yes, I identify my nationality as being Japanese. Yes, I am half Japanese, but you conveniently forget that I'm also a half black person. And I have to remind you of that. And this is something that biracials in this sport, I appreciate those like the Colin Kaepernicks who do things like this, because you're not just going to tell them, okay, well, I am half black, but me being Japanese is not the reason why I won this match. Me being Japanese is not the reason why that I'm being successful in this sport. I'm also half black, that is also a good factor of why I am receiving such success, because my black father helped to raise me into this superstar athlete that I am today. But when you have players like Madison Keys, and I'm glad that Naomi knocked her out, because the problem that I have with people like Madison Keys is she is one of those that is like the confused type biracials. Her mother is white, and this is the current man that she's with. So for y'all saying, oh, she's a black woman, when she has a child with this man, that baby is going to look like a white person. She's biracial, and this is her mother. And they one time asked her about her race, and they were asking her, like growing up playing tennis, are you black or white or whatever? Let me read you guys the interview so that you guys could see it this far. So this is Madison here, and she reminds me of, what's that, Dr. Dre's daughter. She used to play tennis too. I can't think of what her name is, but she just looks like a slimmer version of her. But they asked her in an interview, hold on, let me show you guys where she said it. They asked her in an interview basically like, what does she racially identify as? And in the interview, she just said, I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm just Madison. Hold on, let me find it really fast so I can show you guys. Okay, so this occurred, I want to say like 2016, was it? At the Australian Open, where Madison played Serena. Okay, it was 2015 Australian Open. Madison played Serena in the semifinals, and Serena basically said she's glad that she saw American. They love saying American. I can't stand when they give themselves the title, but whatever. Serena said this. She said, "It's good to see another American, another African American in the semifinals playing so well." And because of that, they asked Madison about it in an interview. And they said, in addition to expressing her gratitude for Serena's kind words, Keys was asked if she saw the significance in being a young African American taking on the sisters in consecutive Australian Open matches. Because in this tournament, she actually played Venus prior to playing Serena, and she actually beat her in the quarters to make it to the semifinals. So then Key said, she said, it's something that's always there, obviously, but I'm very much right in the middle, she said. I don't really think of it. I don't really identify myself as white or African American. I'm just me. I'm just Madison. Now, she's right to not have to choose a side. She's biracial. She shouldn't have to choose a side. But something that I thought was delusional was when she was asked about if she was to have like a biopic, right? Who would she want to play her? And she had the nerve to say, if a movie is ever made about her life, she wants Julia Roberts, who played in Pretty Woman, she wants her to play her. This is the identity confusion that a lot of Black people don't prep their biracial children for at all. Again, they just want them to have curly hair, non-brown eyes, light skin. They want them to look racially ambiguous. But when your child, who clearly has some kinks around the edges, and a child who is going to have a tan that looks like your average Black person, and they have African features, and they turn around and say, if they have a movie about them, they want a white person to play them. I mean, does anybody else see the error of that sort of thinking? I wouldn't have a problem if she wanted somebody like, if she said Zendaya or somebody that is biracial to play her. But when you go out of your way to say, I want a white person to play me, can't get behind it. Because to me, now you're going out of your way to erase your half Black side. I was cool with her saying, I don't identify with both, but when somebody asks you a question on who do you want to play you, and then you just erase your Blackness and say, well, I want a white woman to play me. And I can't get behind that. So, ultimately, we just have to be aware of this. We have to constantly remind these people that I am successful in this sport. If you do come from a familial background where you're biracial and your Black parent or whatever was a pivotal part of your success, people like Naomi, I appreciate, because they make it a point to say, okay, yes, I'm half Black, but my dad was a very necessary part of my success. It wasn't just the Japanese people. And notice that if Naomi starts falling out of her career and starts having poor success, then all of a sudden the Japanese are going to move slowly away from her. See, the Japanese only want to attach with her because she's going to be making in big bucks for the advertisement by her getting to the finals. It's going to be lucrative for them. But when she starts having dismal results, which I don't wish that on her, I'm just speaking hypothetically, now they're going to start referring to her as Haitian. And Black people, you have to be aware of this in sports. You have to prepare your child for this in sports, which is why I really couldn't last in tennis, because mentally, it's just like you feel defeated once you step on the court because you have so much racial injustice that you have to deal with. And it's something that Venus and Serena don't actively speak out about, especially Venus. Venus, oh my God, like Venus is so far gone. I even saw a post where she called Cardi B an inspiration. Like Serena hasn't went that far, but both of them don't really actively speak out about the hardships that Black players, especially in tennis, have to face. And it's definitely disheartening because they're not giving you an accurate assessment as a Black tennis player on what it is to expect and how you can maneuver through it. But, more players need to start, especially Black players need to ensure that when you are playing the sport, you need a strong Black father figure to help you. Regardless of if he knows anything about tennis, you're going to have a better chance of having success when you are playing the sport with both parents present, but more specifically having that father figure there, because these people will try to brainwash you, or if you're not careful, they will try to erase your Blackness in the media if you're not aware of it. So I'm happy that Naomi made it to the finals. I'm happy that she continues to check these people when they try to go out of their way to erase her Blackness and not give her father credit for helping her get to this stage in her career. But definitely comment below and let me know, like, how do you feel about them trying to erase her Blackness, even though she's made it clear that she is half Black and her dad has made it clear that he was the one who trained his girls to be in the position that they are, more specifically Naomi. So hope you guys watch the finals. Let me know, who do you project to win? Do you think Serena will win, or do you think Naomi will win? Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate y'all for watching. I'll talk to you on my next video. Bye.